Hello, my friends. This is Deepak. So I'm back again with Eddie Stern, who's an amazing yoga teacher, one of my teachers and mentors. And we've been having these discussions on the vibhutis from the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And we're basically focusing on the chapter that is about some people call them supernormal powers, siddhis, riddhis, and so on. We are just calling them dormant, non-local potentials that exist in every human being, and how they can be cultivated through the practice of dharana, dhyan, samadhi, and which are the three final steps in the eightfold path to knowledge, as in Ashtanga Yoga, originally described by Patanjali. So, Eddie, let's go. We have a few sutras to discuss today. What's the first one?
Okay, so we're continuing very much in the with this idea of the as above, so below, and so that anything which is contained in the universe around us is contained within the physical body. This is the microcosm and macrocosm, the Brahmanda and Pindanda, which you've spoken about before. So today we have, we're up to Sutra 27 of chapter 3, that by practicing Samyama on the lunar entrance of the body, the knowledge of the arrangements of the stars is acquired. So in our last conversation, we had the solar entrance, which is located at the solar plexus region. And now we have the lunar entrance, which is not really given a location in the commentaries here. Some people say that the lunar entrance is at the very back of the head, kind of in the area of the atlas and axis. Some people say the lunar entrance is at the palate, the conjunction of the hard and soft palate. But here in Vyasa's commentary, there's really no entryway of the moon which is given. We're simply told that by that samyama, we can understand all of the locations of the stars in the entire solar region, or in the entire solar system. That's basically what it says.
Okay, so let me respond to what you've said so far.
Yeah.
As you know, I don't necessarily go by the commentaries that are there, although some commentaries are better than others. And commentaries always reflect the state of the awareness experientially of the commentator. And, you know, in science, of course, regular science I'm talking about, there's something called falsification or validation. Either the theory is falsified or is subject to falsification. So it should be at least subject to falsification, otherwise it's not right, or validation, otherwise it's not right. So given what you just told me, as above, so below, yatha pinde tata brahmande, how I would like to see that is that you and I, as human body minds, and awareness filtering through the human body mind, which is capable of self-awareness, we are at all times, irrespective of our state of awareness, because, you know, there are 7 billion people on the planet right now, and I think hardly anyone is talking about what you and I are discussing. If we put it on a scale of 7 billion, how many are having this discussion? Maybe a couple of thousand, or 5,000, or 10,000, which is still nothing in 7 billion people. So yet these 7 billion people have a human nervous system and a human body. And so the principle applies to everyone, whether they are in the fight or flight response, or the ego response, or whatever, achievement response. And, you know, they can be anywhere on the hierarchy of needs, or whichever chakra is dominating, doesn't matter. The way I'd like to rephrase that yatha pinde tata brahmande is that each of us as human body minds is a pattern of behavior at this moment of the total universe. How could it not be? Okay. You are not separate, which is what we say. We are not separate from the universe. That at the source, we and the universe are one. So the body mind, whatever it's doing, gambling, selling cigarettes, killing people with guns wherever they are, going to war, that's still the universe as a process. Each of us with our nervous systems is an observation deck for the universe to experience itself that particular way, whether it's war or genocide or gambling or being one with God. So there's no judgment here. Yatha pinde tata brahmande means that the pinde is reflecting the total universe, and the Brahman is manifesting as every pinde at all times, because it's infinite. And if it's infinite, it includes everything. Now, given that, it really doesn't matter where the location is, but let's choose one. Let's say it's the Atlas, because we have to be practical. And we choose that since it's been chosen by some sage sometime, even though the others, there are different controversies sometimes about these things. Doesn't matter. Where some sage saw it and did it. Let's keep the lunar entrance here as a point of focus. And then let's not interpret the arrangement of the stars literally, because what we see as the arrangement of the stars out there are vrittis in here, okay? And when I say in here, I'm not saying the brain, because the brain itself is a combination of vrittis. You know, the body itself is a combination of vrittis. Ultimately, all there is vrittis. And that's a genius of Patanjali, Yog, Chit, Vritti, Nirod. Okay, now you can modify the vrittis in a way that you think you know the arrangement of the stars, but there's no out there to begin with. Okay, so let's get the whole notion of out there, not being out there totally, because there's only in here. And even the body mind and the stars are a unified process that we call vrittis. It's so simple. Now that we know the vrittis, we can play with the vrittis, so we get the knowledge of the stars. Okay. Now, if you agree with that kind of thinking, you don't have to. But then let's say the idea is very simple. Let the lunar entrance be activated with the sankalpa, or the intention. You know, we have dharana, dhyan, samadhi, right? So dharana here with the sankalpa, knowledge of the arrangement of the stars or whatever we're talking about right now. And then the shift in the vrittis, so we actually feel what I've been trying to say for a long, long time, that you are the universe, aham brahmasmi. So let's come up with just a simple process for this particular sutra. What is the sutra in Sanskrit?
So, and also I'll add in one thing after that when you finish, but it's Chandre Tara Vyuha Jnanam. So Chandre, in the moon, and Tara means stars or star. Vyuha is going to be the arrangement, and Jnanam is knowledge. But one thing to add that I think you can elaborate here also as you go into the next part of your explanation is that in the yogic traditions, the sun is self-luminous, so it's considered to be the light of awareness. And the moon is not self-luminous, it only reflects the light of the sun. So therefore the moon is the mind, which has no light of its own, but it simply reflects whatever awareness or consciousness is directing towards it. So And this is why the moon is such an interesting thing within the yogic traditions, because it waxes and it wanes in the same way that our mind is waxing and waning.
Or
So
any of the vrittis.
exactly. And so within our entire universe, which is not out there as we have decided, but is in here, there are an infinite number of self-luminous stars, that eventually will burn out, of course, but not after a long time, but they're shining by their own light. And there are an infinite number of moons as well that are reflecting the light of those self-luminous points of awareness. So there might be something in here as well that, maybe you can elaborate on about this idea of self-luminosity, which is awareness or consciousness, and where that's being reflected, which is in the moon of the mind. So that perhaps the solar entrance is the entrance into understanding what is the substratum of mind, what is it which is reflecting in mind, which is really awareness or consciousness, and then through knowing that, understanding or experiencing is the source of all experience, which are the stars or the self-effulgent lights of knowledge.
This is very beautiful because, everything you see is a reflection anyway. When I look at my hand, that's a reflection, modern science, photons bouncing off this. So I actually only know the surface. I don't know what's in it, what Immanuel Kant said, the thing in itself. You can never know. You can only know what is being reflected. But actually, what is being reflected is your state of awareness, you, in any way. So why don't we just use I was taught this sutra by Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, and all he did was use the word moon as the sankalpa, and then have awareness wherever we've chosen this, and then go into samadhi through, in our case, mantra meditation. So we have the word moon as the sutra. We have this location. Then we let go of the word moon. Keep awareness here for convenience, and keep repeating the seed mantra till it disappears. And then stay in that state, in and out, for as long as we want. In this case, could be even 5 minutes or less, 4 minutes for that particular sutra, because we have so many sutras to go 20 plus more. And that's the practice, dhyan, dharana, and samadhi on the word moon, given the understanding that every moon is a reflection of the luminosity of stars, and there could be trillions of moons because there are millions of stars. And at the deeper knowledge, we know we are that.
Nice.
So I like that.
I think that's great. And I think one other thing, I'm going to say two things quickly. One is that another location of the moon is the pineal gland or pineal gland, which is dripping the nectar of the moon, which, as you know, Dr. Bushell identifies as melatonin, or the substance within melatonin. So the pineal gland is one of the locations of the moon, dripping the nectar. And the yogic practices are to make sure the nectar doesn't get burned up in the digestive fire, but we retain it. And then the other thing that I like is that, we don't have to know logically what it is before we do the Samyama. We just have to, because it's going to be transcendent of logical thought anyway. So, all
good.
Right, tell me when you want
we can use, let's give everyone the choice. They can use this pineal gland. Can we say safely that it's behind here somewhere?
Yeah, from the third eye back into the brain a little bit, a couple of inches.
Okay. What's the next sutra for today?
The next one is Dhruve Tad Gati Jnanam. So the dharana, jnana, and samadhi, the samyama on the pole star, the motion of the stars is known. So before we knew the arrangement, and now we're knowing the motion. So the pole star, and that's basically, again, it's a very small commentary, simply by saying when you do the Samyama on that thing which is at the center, then you understand the movement of everything around the center. And of course, everything is the center of the universe.
So I like that also. We can do Sanyama on pole star, and you can choose the same location here or whatever, but the motion of the stars and you and I are the still point of the turning world, as T.S. Eliot said. So that's also very beautiful, because it reinforces that all motion is around the still point of being. And that still point of being could be anywhere where there's a sentient, self-aware being. So dharana, dhyan, samadhi, on just the word star or pole star or north star. What are these days? This my north. What does they say? My north star is whatever. There's a word, right? We use it.
True north.
True north. So yeah. This is the you're doing dharana on true north with the still point of being. I like it. So, and we can choose location. I think same location is good enough for this one too. Or is there a better location?
Well, it seems like the location of this is very much an external location, because, for example, for the moon and for the sun, we were given the entrance. For the solar entrance, for the lunar entrance, meaning into the body or into our inner consciousness. But here for the pole star, there's no entrance that is given. It just simply says the pole star. So we can expect that it's probably on the physical star that we can observe with our eyes.
Let's say no location. Then, you can just do Samyama on star.
Now, the next sutra follows up with it in a way that you might be able to link it. Interestingly, it says, Nabi Chakre Kaya Vyuha Jnanam. And so this is by practicing Samyama on the navel plexus or the Nabi Chakra, the navel center, knowledge of the composition of the body is derived. So one of the ways that I have read this in the past is that the navel center is kind of like the pole star or the center of the physical body. So that by doing the samyama on the navel, on the nabi, then we can understand the composition of the whole body that sort of grows out from the navel center and moves around it. So sometimes I've wondered if the navel was like the pole star of the body, because often in the yogic literature, we read about the navel center being like the standing place of like the Kundasthana is the bulb where all the 72,000 or more than 72,000 nadis are said to grow out from. And in this Kundasthana, the Atma gets fixed to prana. So it's a little bit below the navel, but in that region. So, or actually not Atma, but Jiva, Jiva gets fixed to prana in the center of the Kundasthana. So we have this thing of whatever the karmic identity is that needs to be worked out in this particular life fixes itself to prana so it can express itself and begin to work itself out. And then everything kind of grows out around it. So that's going to include for example, our body, but also our particular outlook on life, our mental states, our predilections for things, all the things that make us unique individuals. But the center point of it is going to be this subtle area a little bit behind and below the navel center, according to some texts, not all of them. So here in the commentary, Vyasa speaks about the Vata, Pitta, Kapha. He speaks about the 7 elements that are making up the entire physical form, and lists these as all the things that you come to know by doing the Samyama on the Nabi chakra. And then this is also elaborated a little bit further by Hariharananda, saying that not only will you know about your vata, pitta, kapha, and your skin, blood, flesh, sinew, bone, marrow, and semen, or the ovum, you'll also know about the three gunas which are making you up, as well as the constituent principles of those gunas, which of course are sattva, rajas, and tamas. So even a little bit more subtle. So anyway, that's what we have here from the.
So now I just heard you use Vyasa. You said Vyasa first before you mentioned Hariharananda.
Yeah, because that's the commentary that have been following for some years. So we have Vyasa's comment. We have Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, which is just a sutra. And then we have a small commentary or long commentary by Vyasa, and then elaboration on that by Hariharananda.
But these are elaborations on the original Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, right?
So yes, Patanjali simply says, Samyama on navel plexus, knowledge of composition of the body.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, so here's my response to that. For the entire 9 months that we are moving from fertilized egg to baby, our only source of prana and nutrition is the mother. And all of that is coming through the navel, through the umbilical cord. So our umbilical cord is the connection to both the mother's prana and the mother's nutrition and a material body, but also her mind and what she's going through, which has a lot of context. I recently found some very interesting literature on if a mother and a father having a violent argument and an ambulance is going by, or there's a gunshot sound or a siren outside, mother and father are arguing, and the baby's heart rate variability changes in the womb. Okay, so that contextual mind, that relationship, everything that's happening between the mother is not an isolated person. She's in the matrix of interbeingness, which starts with her family, her husband, her relationships, her other children, her people in her life, and then it extends into the world. So actually, the world as experienced by the mother, one particular sentient being, and 7 billion people right now, as a particular process, particular pattern of behavior of the entire universe, is informing this little karmic entity through the mother, because the karma is intertwined. We have personal karma, we have ancestral karma, we have economic karma, we have racial karma, we have tribal karma, and it's complicated. Karma is all experience at all times filtered through a particular conditioned mind, which is a nodal point in the matrix of interbeingness. However, those 9 months, we are ingesting karma, possibly remembering our own past. Mystery of karma, as the Upanishad says, unfathomable, but we know that karma rules our life. Every moment, karma, and we're seeking liberation from karma anyway. So for me, this is a very beautiful sutra. All you have to do is, I would keep it at the navel, because that's the original, Nabi. Why bother changing it if Patanjali says it's the navel? And the intention is knowledge of not only the universe, as we just did in the previous 2 sutras, not only of the universe in the self, but also this particular universe, this dynamic, as Rumi says, you are the universe in dynamic motion. I am the universe in ecstatic motion or miserable motion, doesn't matter, depending on the karma. But this does unfold karma and release karma by giving you knowledge of everything about your constitution, vata, pitta, kapha, the three gunas, the tendencies, which is all representing karma. So let's keep it just simple. Naval is the word. This is the location. And the intention is now seeing the universe in ourselves and ourselves in the universe. They're both the same thing. Aham Brahmasmi again. Going beyond the jiva ultimately by understanding the jiva into Atman and realizing Brahman. So I like it very much, this just as is, Nabi.
Nabi. Yeah, and I think there's one thing to reinforce there that, again, of course, in alignment with what you were saying, with that in Sankhya, which is what Yoga Sutra is based on, that philosophy, we have the concept of Sat Karya Vada. And that means that within the seed is contained the fruit. Within the effect, within the cause is contained the effect. So you have an apple seed and you plant it, an apple tree can grow. Sesame seed, you grind it up, you get tahini or sesame seed oil. But you don't grind up a sesame seed and get an apple tree, and you don't grind up an apple seed and get sesame tahini. Contained within the seed is what's going to grow out from it. So that by paying attention or directing our awareness towards these different things, like say the Nabi, simply by resting our awareness completely in it, and going through all the steps of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, the knowledge contained within Nabi reveals itself in the field of consciousness of the meditator, who of course in samadhi has kind of disappeared, so just that experience remains. So the simply by repeating the word Nabi or letting your awareness rest at the Nabi, then the composition of the body reveals itself, because that's the nature of Nabi, to tie everything together. So there's no actual outside information being gleaned from anything. It's actually the information contained within the seed of the thing that we're meditating on. So if it's the solar entrance that we're meditating on, then whatever's contained in the solar entrance then becomes the reality or is revealed to the meditator. And the same with basically each one of the vibhutis. So each time we read through one of these, basically what Patanjali is doing is he's giving us a little doorway into what is the inherent thing hidden behind all these things that we can meditate on. And then when we meditate on it, that it reveals itself to us. It was already there. It's nothing added. It was just a little bit hidden until we rested our awareness in it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And we shall end there for today.
Yes.